Welcome to another episode. We will dive into the rise and collapse of Nokia, from Finland's factories to the world's pockets. For more chilling stories like this, subscribe, like, and share the channel. Life Facts Daily. The phones could survive a drop from a building, but the empire behind them could not survive the storm of innovation. For more than a decade, Nokia was the undisputed ruler of mobile communication. The name was everywhere, on billboards, in homes, and in the hands of billions. Their devices were praised for their toughness, long-lasting batteries, and straightforward designs. Owning a Nokia was more than just owning a phone. It was holding a symbol of dependability. But while the catchy ringtones echoed across the globe and the snake game consumed hours of our time, the company's foundation was already showing cracks. Nokia's dominance seemed unshakable, yet history had other plans. So, how did the world's most trusted phone manufacturer, one that practically defined the mobile era, stumble so badly that it lost the crown it once wore with ease? Let's rewind to where it all began. Unlike today's Silicon Valley titans, Nokia's story doesn't begin with futuristic labs or computer geniuses. Instead, it starts in 1865 Finland, with a paper mill on the banks of the Nokia River. Over time, this little company expanded into unexpected industries: rubber footwear, car tires, electrical cables, and even gas masks during wartime. For decades, Nokia had little to do with electronics, let alone mobile phones. Everything changed in 1967, when a series of mergers transformed Nokia into a diversified corporation. The new Nokia began exploring the growing world of electronics, producing radios, networking equipment, and communication gear. Its geographic location also worked in its favor. Finland's ties to both Western nations and the Soviet Union gave Nokia a unique advantage during the Cold War, acting as a gateway between two worlds. Still, no one could have predicted that this modest company would one day shape the way billions of people connected. Early steps into mobility. The late 1970s brought Nokia face-to-face with its destiny. By acquiring Mobira, a firm focused on mobile technology, Nokia set its sights on the future. One of their earliest products was the Mobira Senator, launched in the early 1980s. It was less of a phone and more of a suitcase with an antenna. Heavy, expensive, and tied to car batteries, it was impractical for everyday use. Even inside Nokia, many doubted whether mobile phones would ever become mainstream. To them, the technology seemed niche, something for businesses or government officials, not for ordinary people. But Nokia didn't abandon the idea. It kept experimenting, refining, and waiting for the right moment. That moment came in the 1990s. In 1992, Nokia released the Nokia 1011, one of the first GSM handsets available to the public. Unlike its predecessors, this phone was compact enough to be carried around, and it worked on a global system that was spreading quickly. The timing couldn't have been better. By the mid-90s, mobile communication was taking off. What was once a luxury was rapidly becoming a necessity, and Nokia positioned itself perfectly. Instead of chasing wild designs or complicated features, the company focused on what mattered most: ease of use and durability. By 1995, profits soared past $1 billion, and in just 3 years, Nokia overtook Motorola to become a #1 phone brand in the world. A global love affair. By the late 1990s, Nokia wasn't just a company, it was a cultural phenomenon. Its devices were everywhere, and people trusted them completely. Then came the phone that would immortalize Nokia in history, the Nokia 3310, launched in the year 2000. The 3310 wasn't flashy, but it was unforgettable. Its features made it legendary: a battery that seemed endless, a body that could withstand almost anything, the simple but addictive snake game, customizable ringtones that let people personalize their devices for the first time. For young people, it meant independence. For families, it meant security. And for Nokia, it meant they had created not just a device, but an icon. The 3310 wasn't just another product. It was a turning point in culture. Nokia had become a household name across the planet, reaching the summit. As the new millennium began, Nokia was untouchable. By the early 2000s, it commanded more than 40% of the global mobile market, a staggering lead over every competitor. Its strategy was unmatched. Nokia produced entry-level phones for emerging economies, stylish handsets for teenagers, professional models for business leaders. It was a company for everyone, everywhere. In some countries, its logo was more recognizable than Coca-Cola. But while Nokia was basking in its dominance, the mobile landscape was evolving. Phones were no longer just for calling and texting. They were transforming into mini computers. And just as Nokia celebrated its peak, the seeds of its downfall were being planted. At the start of the 2000s, Nokia seemed unstoppable. Its devices dominated the market, its profits soared, and its brand was synonymous with trust. People carried Nokias everywhere, from the bustling streets of New York to remote villages in Africa. But beneath the surface of this global dominance, the mobile phone industry was shifting. What once defined a good phone was changing rapidly. Consumers no longer wanted just sturdy devices for calls and texts. They were beginning to crave more powerful, feature-rich gadgets that could connect them to a growing digital world. Nokia didn't see the storm coming. Or worse, it saw it and dismissed it. Cracks in the armor. By the mid-2000s, new trends were emerging. Phones were evolving into entertainment hubs. Cameras were being added. Color screens replaced monochrome displays. Music players and internet browsing were becoming standard. Competitors like Sony Ericsson and Motorola were making waves with stylish, feature-packed models. Motorola's Razr V3, for example, wasn't just a phone. It was a fashion statement. Nokia tried to adapt, but its strategy was scattered. The company flooded the market with dozens of models, each slightly different, but not truly innovative. Instead of focusing on creating one groundbreaking product, Nokia leaned on its reputation for reliability and toughness. And then came the experiment that showed Nokia's blind spot, the N-Gage. The N-Gage misstep. In 2003, Nokia launched the N-Gage, a device that was supposed to be a hybrid between a phone and a gaming console. On paper, it sounded like a winner, a phone that could also compete with Nintendo's Game Boy. But in reality, it was awkward to use, uncomfortable to hold, and lacked strong game support. Gamers laughed at it, and consumers avoided it. The N-Gage was supposed to show Nokia's boldness, but instead, it revealed something else. Nokia didn't fully understand where the market was heading. Still, even with stumbles, Nokia's sheer size and dominance kept it on top. For a moment, it looked like no mistake could topple the Finnish giant. But in 2007, everything changed. On January 9th, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage in San Francisco and unveiled a device that would redefine technology forever, the iPhone. This is not just a phone, Jobs declared. It's an iPod, an internet communicator, and a phone, all in one. What Apple delivered was a sleek touchscreen device with no physical keypad, a revolutionary interface, and the promise of an entire app ecosystem. It wasn't just about calling or texting anymore. The smartphone had arrived, and it was about to rewrite the rules. The public reaction was electric. Tech enthusiasts, casual users, and even critics quickly realized the iPhone wasn't a gimmick. It was the future, Nokia's blind spot. Nokia didn't panic at first. In fact, many of its executives dismissed the iPhone as a toy, too expensive and too fragile to threaten their sturdy devices. To Nokia, Apple's new gadget looked impractical compared to its lineup of reliable workhorses. But consumers saw things differently. They didn't just want durability. They wanted innovation, sleek design, and software that felt alive. The iPhone offered experiences that Nokia simply couldn't match. Even worse, while Apple was changing the game, another competitor was quietly preparing to reshape the market, Google's Android operating system. The software trap. For years, Nokia relied on its in-house operating system, Symbian. It had worked fine in the era of basic phones, but in the smartphone era, it was clunky, slow, and outdated. Developers hated working with it. and apps were quickly becoming the lifeblood of smartphones. Meanwhile, Apple launched the App Store in 2008, creating a thriving ecosystem. Google partnered with manufacturers like Samsung, HTC, and LG, spreading Android far and wide. By the time Nokia realized Symbian was holding it back, it was too late. Transitioning to a new platform was costly and time-consuming, and the company hesitated. While Apple and Android surged ahead, Nokia was stuck trying to modernize a system that was already obsolete. One of Nokia's biggest weaknesses during this period was its lack of a unified identity. Apple marketed the iPhone as a lifestyle product, a sleek, aspirational device that made you feel part of an exclusive club. Samsung positioned itself as the flexible, innovative alternative. Nokia, however, kept releasing endless models without a clear message. Was it the business phone company? The youth phone company? The gaming phone company? Consumers didn't know, and that confusion chipped away at its once rock-solid brand. By 2009, the writing was on the wall. Nokia was still shipping millions of devices, but its market share was evaporating. Apple was gaining momentum. Samsung was flooding the market with Android devices, and consumers were moving on. Nokia had gone from leader to laggard in just a few short years. But this was only the beginning of the downfall. As the smartphone revolution picked up speed, Nokia would make a desperate bet on a new partner, a move that could either save the company or bury it for good. By 2010, Nokia was no longer the unchallenged titan of mobile phones. The numbers told the story. Apple was thriving with the iPhone, Google's Android was spreading like wildfire across dozens of manufacturers, and Samsung was becoming the king of the Android army. Meanwhile, Nokia, once the undisputed leader, was bleeding market share every quarter. Inside the company, panic was setting in. The question wasn't if Nokia was in trouble, but how fast it was falling. The burning platform. In early 2011, Nokia's new CEO, Stephen Alap, sent a now-famous internal memo. In it, he compared Nokia to a man standing on a burning oil platform in the middle of the sea. The metaphor was brutal. Nokia could either stay on the burning platform and perish, or jump into the icy waters below and risk everything for survival. Alap made it clear. The company needed a radical shift, and it needed it fast. But which direction should Nokia jump? Betting on Microsoft. Instead of adopting Android like so many of its rivals, Nokia shocked the world by announcing a strategic partnership with Microsoft. Together, they would build smartphones powered by Windows Phone, a sleek but improved operating system. Why Microsoft? For Nokia, it was about standing out. If it joined Android, it would become just another player in an already crowded ecosystem dominated by Samsung. With Windows Phone, Nokia had a chance to become the face of a brand new mobile platform. For Microsoft, the deal was golden. The software giant had been desperate to break into mobile and needed a partner with hardware expertise. Nokia was the perfect candidate. On paper, it seemed like a bold, innovative plan. In reality, it would become one of the most controversial decisions in tech history. In 2011, Nokia launched its first Lumia smartphones running Windows Phone. Sleek, colorful, and with a distinctive tile-based interface, the Lumia devices looked different from anything else on the market. The Lumia 920, in particular, received praise for its camera technology, design, and build quality. For a moment, it seemed like Nokia had found its second wind. But appearances can be deceiving. While the hardware impressed, the software was another story. Windows Phone lacked the one thing users wanted most: apps. Developers were pouring resources into iOS and Android, leaving Windows Phone with a barren ecosystem. Popular apps like Instagram, Snapchat, and even certain banking apps were either missing or arrived years too late. Consumers didn't want a phone that looked great but couldn't do what their friends' iPhones or Samsungs could. The market doesn't wait. Nokia and Microsoft underestimated how quickly the smartphone world was evolving. By the time the Lumia series gained traction, Apple was rolling out new iPhones every year with massive fanfare, while Samsung was blanketing the Android market with phones at every price point. Even worse, the Lumia phones were often locked into exclusive deals with certain carriers, making them harder to buy in some markets. Instead of catching up, Nokia kept falling further behind. In 2012, Nokia's global smartphone market share plunged to just 5%. The king of phones was now a background player, selling the crown jewels. By 2013, the financial pressure became unbearable. Nokia's once mighty phone division was losing billions. The company could no longer sustain its losses, and the dream of reclaiming its throne was fading fast. That year, Nokia made the fateful decision. It sold its mobile phone business to Microsoft for $7.2 billion. The announcement shocked the world. The company that had once defined the mobile era was handing over its crown jewels. The end of an era. For Finland, this was more than a corporate deal. Nokia wasn't just a company. It was a symbol of national pride, proof that a small Nordic nation could dominate global technology. The sale to Microsoft felt like the end of an era, almost like losing a piece of the country's identity. But for Nokia, it was survival. By selling off its phone division, it could focus on its networking business and telecommunications infrastructure, areas where it still had strength. For Microsoft, the acquisition was meant to transform it into a true competitor to Apple and Google. But the partnership that began with hope would soon unravel. The Lumia legacy. Despite everything, the Lumia line left behind a loyal fan base. People loved the cameras, the durability, and even the colorful designs. To this day, some tech enthusiasts still argue that Windows Phone was ahead of its time in terms of interface and simplicity. But the truth was undeniable. The partnership failed to save Nokia's mobile empire. Instead, it only delayed the inevitable. By the mid-2010s, Nokia was out of the phone business, and the world had moved on. Life after phones. When Nokia sold its mobile phone division to Microsoft in 2013, many thought the brand was finished. After all, what was Nokia without phones? But instead of collapsing completely, Nokia quietly shifted its focus back to its roots: telecommunications infrastructure. Reinventing the giant, Nokia poured its energy into building networks, 5G technology, and enterprise solutions. It was no longer the brand you held in your hand, but the invisible force powering the connections behind the scenes. And it worked. By 2015, Nokia had acquired Alcatel-Lucent, making it one of the biggest telecom equipment providers in the world, alongside rivals like Ericsson and Huawei. The once iconic phone company was now competing in a different arena, less glamorous, but stable and profitable. Nokia was no longer a consumer brand. It had become a backbone of global communications. Microsoft's failed experiment. Meanwhile, things weren't going well on Microsoft's end. Despite spending billions, Microsoft couldn't revive Nokia's phone business. The Lumia line struggled to gain market share, and by 2016, Microsoft finally admitted defeat, writing off its investment as one of the costliest failures in tech history. For many, it felt like Nokia had been sacrificed in a gamble that never paid off. The return of the Nokia brand. But just when it seemed like Nokia phones were gone forever, a surprising twist emerged. In 2016, a company called HMD Global, formed by ex-Nokia executives, acquired the rights to use the Nokia brand on smartphones. Partnering with Foxconn for manufacturing, HMD launched a series of Android-powered Nokia devices. Suddenly, the Nokia name was back on store shelves. The strategy? Nostalgia. HMD leaned into the emotional connection people still had with the brand. The highlight came in 2017, when Nokia re-released the legendary 3310, redesigned for the modern era, but with the same durability and retro charm. The move sparked global buzz. People who had grown up with Nokia rushed to buy it. Not necessarily for cutting-edge features, but for the memories. Can Nokia ever return to glory? Today, Nokia-branded smartphones exist, but they are niche players in a market dominated by Apple, Samsung, and rising Chinese brands like Xiaomi and Huawei. While HMD has kept the brand alive, Nokia is unlikely to reclaim its throne as the king of phones. The market has changed too much, and the giants of the smartphone era are too entrenched. But in a way, Nokia doesn't need to dominate again. The company has found stability in networking, 5G infrastructure, and digital services, areas that, while less visible, are crucial for the connected world. The legacy of Nokia. The story of Nokia is more than just the rise and fall of a tech empire. It's a lesson in the brutal speed of innovation. Nokia's rise showed how bold vision, smart strategy, and fearless innovation can transform a company into a global legend. But its fall revealed how quickly success can slip away when a company underestimates change, clings to outdated systems, or bets on the wrong partner. For millions, Nokia wasn't just a brand. It was their first phone, their first text message, their first connection to the digital world. That legacy lives on, even if the company itself has transformed. Nokia's journey is one of the most dramatic stories in business history. From humble beginnings in Finland to the king of mobile phones. From billions in sales to a shocking collapse in the smartphone revolution. From near oblivion to a quiet rebirth in telecom networks and nostalgia comebacks. It's a reminder that no empire, no matter how powerful, is safe from disruption. But it's also proof that survival and reinvention are always possible, even after the darkest fall. Nokia may never rule our pockets again, but it still powers the invisible threads that connect our world. And that perhaps is the most fitting ending of all. Let's know your thought on this on comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share our channel. Life Facts Daily.